Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News, and right beside me, say hi, it is longtime favorite radio broadcaster Kid Carson. If you're in BC, I'd be surprised if you don't know who he is. You probably know him from the Kid Carson show. And then...
Thank you. Yes, and then, right?
And then, like many of the doctors, scientists, teachers, whoever that we've covered that speak out in support of freedom and anti-segregation and discrimination, you're out the door. So we're going to cover what happened with Kid Carson and hear from him about what's happening now since he spoke out in support of the truckers, or maybe just the truth about the trucker movement in Ottawa right after this. But if you don't know what Rebel News does, or you do, and you appreciate that we fight to bring you the other side of the story, what state media will not tell you, please consider going to convoyreports.com. We've always fought to give you the other side of the story, and that was amplified with COVID-19, and now even more so with all of the propaganda coming out about the truckers and the pro-freedom Canadians involved in the convoy. So there at convoyreports.com, you can find all of our fact-based reports with our reporters on the ground showing you what's actually happening there. Some of my colleagues even sleeping in their cars. You'll find everything there, and it's also where you can donate to help us cover the cost for the many resources to have our boots on the ground to bring you such reports.
And, one morning, like 6 months ago, I shared my opposition to the passports, and it was never really the same again after that. Things really changed. I paid a very heavy price for saying that, and I begged for forgiveness to the people that needed me to say that. I just feel so many things I want to say, and but there's a price to pay when you do. If you're not going along with what everyone else is saying, this radio show sucks without another point of view. The whole media landscape sucks without another point of view. It's just like the last 6 months, I felt like the crazy person in media. No one is no one else going to speak up and say that this is kind of crazy? The final thing I want to say is, why is the news not telling us the truth? We see truckers setting up bouncy castles for kids, feeding the homeless, dancing, being so damn Canadian, but the news is calling it violent. So they took this 5-second clip of this man saying, "I'm terrified," and they put that on the news. But I think what he was really saying something like, "I'm terrified of running out of food for these people." But they twisted it. Make it seem like he was, terrified to be there in Ottawa. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is happening? It's frustrating, man. But I will come in here. I'll be silly. I'll give away cash. I'll talk about stupid stuff like, hey, do you like curly fries or thick cuts? Call now. I will keep doing that. But, to be totally honest, I have a contract that's coming to a close, and radio doesn't have a history of letting you say goodbye on your last day. And I'm not saying goodbye, but, in the event that I ever become, not enough, or if I ever become too much, I just want to tell you how great it's been to be here on Z95.3 and to have these conversations with you the odd time on the air. And I hope that we can continue that somewhere else at some point, or if, subscribe to my new podcast for a few bucks a month. I've got kids to feed, a wife who likes to buy organic food, and it would be nice to have my tribe be with me and help me.
Okay, so that was just a taste of what Kid said about the trucker convoy. I encourage you to go to the full report at rebelnews.com and listen to it in full. It was pretty epic. And also we'll link your podcast there as well, which you should check out. But Kid, oh my gosh. Now, this isn't the first time you've said something against the politically correct narrative when it comes to what's happening with COVID-19. Let's go back 6 months. Tell us what you said then and how things went after that.
Oh God, I can't remember what I fed my kids for breakfast this morning, let alone what I said 6 months ago.
Well, let's take a listen then.
I wish that we all understood the technology of the passport and the potential of where it could go. It seems as though most people feel like the digital passport is just a convenient way to carry your injection card. But it's not about convenience. It's really about the power that you are giving the government, and not just today's government, but any future government. Having a digital passport is like, if the government ever asks you to do something you don't want to do it, you lose your green check mark and you lose your ability to participate in society. Your check mark can be just turned on or turned off at a whim. This is not an anti-vax message. It's about giving up the power that will never be given back to you. We're still taking off our shoes at the airport from 9/11. The last 2 years, we've been so heavily focused on equality, but now suddenly this debate has us now ostracizing a huge part of the population from participating in society. What? That's not what this is not the narrative we've been excited about for the last how many years? It's been about inclusivity. It's not right, man.
And I think that really shook my management team at the radio station. And I was kind of just told that maybe that kind of conversation should stay off the air. And that's kind of where it started.
So you spoke out there, and then how was it at work? Did you get in trouble, or did you have to make some promises?
Well, there are a few different things that I spoke about. I have 2 young kids, and adamant that they don't wear masks. My kids have never worn a mask before. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that. And I started to feel weird when there was some resistance to me sharing those opinions that, hey, how do you fellow moms and dads out there feel about your kids going to school with a mask on? And again, it gets weird when you can't even share this opinion that so many people are clearly feeling. And so, yeah, at that point, I was sort of made a bit of a promise that I wouldn't talk about these things any further.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to think of the real major thing. Oh, dude, thank you. Thank you so much.
First 4 minutes of truth I've heard in 2 years on Canadian radio.
Wow.
Can we get that on the mic?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh boy. I actually heard it on my wife's Instagram when she was watching it. If I had heard that while I was driving in my car, I would have broke down crying.
Aww.
Just to hear somebody speaking their mind in that way was pretty amazing. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. Thanks, dude. That means a lot. It's been a rough week.
I was going to say it's probably been a bit of
Thank you.
Send you a little message.
So amazing now.
I've had
How does that feel?
a lump. That's just funny that happened just now, but I can't count the number of times I've had a lump in my throat this week with the messages of, people sending me the nicest things, like, you're a hero for speaking out. And it's like, I'm not a hero for speaking out. The heroes are in their trucks right now fighting for making a change and getting our opinion acknowledged. I just simply spoke about it. It's the lamest thing you could do as a hero. It's just but I mean, that's how I guess I feel. I feel awkward with that, with those types of messages. But anyways, yeah, that's like, it's a beautiful thing. I've had thousands and thousands of messages of people just saying, thank you for saying it somewhere publicly in mainstream media where it hasn't been spoken about. And I'm just so confused on why more people aren't just saying something. It's just bizarre. It's just bizarre.
It's very bizarre. And, they say evil prevails when good men do nothing. And in this case, there's so much censorship on the other side of the story when it comes to COVID-19. So I would say you are a hero in the sense that you spoke out in a position of influence. And I think that's why grown men are walking down the side of the road and saying, I would have broke out in tears. You know what I mean? So it's impactful and it's humble, but I definitely get why they're saying that. So what happened? I saw on your site, you said that you're no longer there. And I've seen other posts where they say that you kind of mutually agreed to part ways. What actually happened with Z95.3 and why you're not working there now?
And you know what? I will always give love to those guys. I mean, no one should go and smack talk people who took a chance on you and employed you and helped you feed your family. The crew there, they're just trying to protect their own back too. I think everyone's afraid. And I think there is a fear of, if you allow right now, anyways, this opinion to be out on the airwaves, that you're going to upset listeners and you're going to lose ratings and you're going to lose advertisers. And I don't believe that's true, but I think there is a fear of that right now. It's still, as the narrative is slowly shifting and more people are waking up. So I think hopefully very soon we'll look back and everyone will be on the air talking about this. I hope that all my brothers and sisters in radio and TV are soon shouting at the top of their lungs, like, yeah, we got to make some changes. I'm just maybe the one of the first, maybe. But yeah. So what went down with Zed is that my contract was coming to a close, and we were, deciding now what's the next step. And then this transpired, and there was no more steps. I wouldn't say they grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and threw me out the door. It was a very nice conversation. We went to the back office and they just said, maybe today's probably your last day. And I'm like, I understand. So that's okay. I get it. I knew I took that risk when I said something. But sometimes when you feel something bubbling inside of you, it's like, are you going to live with that for the rest of your life, not saying something or speak out? So.
Now, did you notice this trend of not being able to speak out about something that's really, it hits you in the heart and other Canadians would like to hear, maybe not all, but some. Is that a new thing since 2020, or did you notice that in your whole career with radio?
Here's the thing. We're all at different levels of understanding of what's happening, So for me, I get called a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, as soon as you talk about the passport being, for our kids to get on, which I agree with, you're in conspiracy theory land for 6 months, then it comes true later.
Right. I was just going to say that. What's the difference between a conspiracy theory and truth? Well, maybe about 6 months, right? So I've always wanted to share certain things on my show, and I have a little bit of peppered things here and there. But again, you always kind of get the leash pulled a little bit, like, hey, maybe this isn't the place for that. My opinion is that the place for it is in public radio. It is in mainstream because it amplifies it, makes it that much more powerful because it stands out from the typical, hey, let's win $500 or let's call up and win movie tickets or, dropping a little bit of truth in those spaces, I think makes people pay attention. I mean, you can go crazy on a podcast all you want, but when it's on the radio, I think that's, and I think just proven from what I just went through, people may pay much more attention and it wakes people up. You want to plant seeds where they're needed. The moment for me where I really felt like something was eerily wrong was when I attended my very first protest. And it was the one taking place at City Hall, close to the hospital, up on 12th. And there was so much buzz about it, I had to go and check it out for myself and also interview people for my show. I wanted to find out what people were thinking. Of course, at this time, I'm behind the movement, but I'm kind of quietly, not really, So I show up, have a great time, meet some listeners, interview some people. There's tears, there's passionate conversations, and I intended to play those clips on the radio show the next morning. And then suddenly, the media is saying how horrible it was. They were blocking ambulances, and they're harassing nurses. And I was just, I couldn't believe it. And I saw it on one website, and then I saw it on another news channel, big mainstream, then another big mainstream news channel. And that's when I started to really get this sick feeling in my stomach because I thought, okay, one news organization can get it wrong. Yeah. But how can they all have the same story, the wrong story? And then my mind is going crazy. Like, how do they coordinate this? Who's in charge of feeding the information to all of them? Like, who's that person? Or is it one and then the other two are following in their footsteps? It felt really weird. And, but that's when I knew the media was not telling the truth. And since then, and we've seen it now with the trucker convoy, they're not telling us what's actually happening. I've been interviewing some of the truckers in Ottawa on my podcast over Zoom, and they're taking me on tours on their phone, and I see kids in bouncy castles and people high-fiving each other. It's like the Olympics on crack. And I'm like tearing up, getting choked up at how beautiful it is. And then you turn the news on, and it's the complete opposite. It's violent, and it's scary, and people's families calling them, are you okay in Ottawa? So at that point you go, okay, something's really wrong here. And people need to start speaking out.
And the mayor of Ottawa actually called the bouncing on bouncy castles and hot tubs disturbing. But anyways, I'm glad you actually brought that up. I was there as well, boots on the ground. There was thousands of people. It was a peaceful protest and no one was blocking entrances. It went to City Hall. And I was also flabbergasted at what I call propaganda coming out. And I actually heard the radio, there were some broadcasters who also were verbalizing it. The mayor called a lot of the healthcare workers who had that protest idiots and jerks.
When I see these idiots out protesting, I just, they should just stay the hell home. Like, just stop this. And to really have the nerve to hold protests outside of hospitals, it just blows my mind. And these folks are just a bunch of jerks that just need to go away.
You can catch the full report of what really took place at that at rebelnews.com. And I'm working on a series called Unpacking the Propaganda, which is going to talk about that. issue, which, by the way, led to the shifting and creating of a new law that restricts protests from being near hospitals. So stay tuned for that. Now, I want to ask you sort of a tough question, I guess. What would you say to the, I'm sure it's a small percentage, but the critics who say, you know what, this was just a stunt. Kid just did this to, promote his podcast.
Oh, a stunt. Well, I'm no longer employed, and I have 3 kids. And like I've joked about on my podcast, my wife really loves organic food, and it's about double the cost of regular food. So to be unemployed isn't probably an ideal situation for any dad or any person. So definitely not a stunt. But I feel like doing a podcast is something I've dreamt of for a few years. And I just didn't do it because you're afraid and you want to have steady income. And so I guess the universe gave me a little bit of a kick in the ass, and it was a surprise. It's weird to wake up the next morning and realize I don't have to go to the radio station today. And now I'm finding this whole new routine. I'm finding my voice too in sort of the truth community, because I've been a consumer of truth and freedom fighting for a long time, but I've never been able to speak about it. So I'm trying to find out. I'm still not used to. I still feel like there's a gate on my brain where I want to say something and I have to stop. Oh yeah, wait, I can just say it. It's a whole new realm. I'm used to researching every morning silly stories, for the radio, and now I'm actually picking the stories that I want to talk about for my podcast. So it's a bit of a dream come true. It's really scary right now because I'm just starting, and it hasn't even been a week yet. But I appreciate everyone's support and kind of jumping into this new space.
Well, absolutely. If you appreciate that Kid used his influence and spoke out at a time where there is so much misinformation swirling around about the Canadians who are concerned about the mandates that are causing division, segregation, and despair in our country, consider checking out his podcast. I believe it's $20 a month. And where's the best place to catch it?
I mean, it's on Spotify. You don't have to become a paid subscriber. That's sort of an option for people that want to support me, which is great. I have a big vision of where I want to take this, getting a new studio downtown, having guests in person, and really blowing this up at a time where I think we really need it. So I'm really excited. But you can still follow along. There's lots of free content on Spotify and the other platforms as well. And I'm also doing in video, which is like right now I'm very uncomfortable because there's a camera on my face. I'm not used to this at all, or being interviewed for that matter. But yes, Spotify, all the platforms, and I definitely appreciate the support.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. I'm Drea Humphrey, and this is Rebel News. Are you tired of the division you're seeing in our country, people being limited to their vaccination status, and you are ready to have things go back to normal? Then so are we. Join our fight to end the divisive vaccine passports at fightvaccinepassports.com.